Welcome, everyone. My name is Jeff St. Laurent. This is the Tuesday Live Show. Today's topic is how, or do you have what it takes to become an entrepreneur? Very, very exciting topic. And my hope is that by listening to this, you're either in a situation where, especially if you are not one yet, or you're launching your coaching business, this helps inform you enough where you decide whether you want to move forward or not as an entrepreneur, and if you do, what to expect. If you're already an entrepreneur, it will help you identify and just shed light on the realities of entrepreneurship wherever you're at on that journey, and allow you to hopefully navigate it more successfully than you would have otherwise. With that being said, I do record all of my shows. I put them on my website, sellingcoaching.com, in my university. I help coaches transition to a full-time business. I have some great resources there. If you want to start right on the homepage of sellingcoaching.com and enter your name and email, not only will that get you my great resource, launching your coaching business, the first 3 vital steps, but that will also put you into my community where you'll get some great information from me on a weekly basis to help you on your journey towards being a successful long-term full-time coach. I've been on this journey since 2004, and been an entrepreneur before that in the fitness industry. So even though as of this recording, I'm 47, I've really been an entrepreneur, I would say, since I was probably easily 17, in high school, when I was painting and landscaping, doing those things on my own. I've had a job at a supermarket. I had a job at a health club for a little while. But other than that, I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. And there are some things I've learned along the way. And the number one thing I want to get across to you today, as we start to think about this, came from last week. My girlfriend, she's a nurse, and she only had a few hours one week, her regular hours. And she wanted to pick up more hours. She's like, oh, we were going to go on a trip. She wants to pay off a few things, and she's like, I'm gonna pick up some hours this week because I want more money. And there was some incentive to go in for work. And she's like, oh, I'll just do it for 8 hours. And then if I, stay beyond that, there's another incentive to stay another 4 hours. And then I can get overtime as well. Right. And so she can figure out, I'm going to do this. And she gets the shift and she gets her incentive pay and puts in her 12 hours, and it's exhausting and long. But at the end of the day, she comes home and she'll wake up the next day, and whenever that paycheck comes out, she can calculate, all right, my hours plus my overtime plus the incentive and, minus taxes, I'm going to get this much money on this date. Like it's a very straightforward exchange. And I thought of that. I'm like, wow, it's such a different world, because if I want to make whatever, I want an extra $1,000 or whatever it's going to be to do something, to pay for something, whatever. I can't just go spend 12 hours in my office, right? I've got to create results in my office. And one of the first things we need to understand as an entrepreneur is we don't get paid for time. We get paid for results. No one's paying me to be in my office right now. No one's paying me to do this broadcast. It's just not how it works. And so we've really got to understand that's a really big, significant change, especially if you've been an employee your whole life. Is, maybe you're on salary, and, as long as you show up each and every week and put in a certain amount of time, yeah, you've got to produce results and et cetera. I'm not discounting any of that stuff, but you're going to get a paycheck. It's going to be in your bank account. You're going to get the check to deposit, with a given certainty of frequency. Doesn't mean jobs are certain, right? People can get laid off, et cetera. But at the end of the day, in a situation like that, it can be pretty cool to have that situation. But we don't have that predictability with entrepreneurship. And that's the biggest difference there, is you've got to really start to prepare yourself for that. I work with a lot of students who are in a situation where, maybe they are supported by other people, maybe it be a spouse, roommates, or parents, or whoever, whatever their age at, where their financial situation is good, where it doesn't mean that they don't have to produce results, but at least they're in a situation where it's not like, hey, if I don't earn any money this month, I'm not living on the streets. I'm going to have food. I'm going to have shelter. I'm going to have my basic needs and beyond. right? That's the best situation to be in, but not everyone's obviously in that situation. Some people have it situated where they're covered financially because they have savings, or they have something where it's providing for them financially, whatever it is, investments, etc., where they can do this business and it doesn't have to produce income, even though they want it to. That's the best case scenario. If you're in a situation like sometimes I'll work with some of my students on, is they quit their job, they're quitting their job, they hate their job, they can't stand their job, they need to get out of it, or maybe the job they're in isn't producing enough because whatever, it's a gig job. Things are slowing down, like as I'm doing this now with real estate, right? I'm working with a lot of realtors too, and things have just slowed down. There's no inventory, they're getting sales, but it's not like it was 2 years ago where stuff's on the market for a day and you get 10 people overbidding for a property. It's just a different industry. So if you're in situations like that where you, there's no dependability necessarily with that income, even if it is a job, right? Especially sales jobs, commission only jobs, as markets and economies change. But if that creates a stressful situation for your coaching business to have to produce income, that's not a great place to be in. I literally told one of my students earlier today, it's a brand new student who hired me last week. And, they were in a situation where, their job really wasn't doing what it needed to do to produce income for them. And they're really looking at their coaching business as, this is the thing that's going to get me going and going to provide for me. I told them straight up, I'm like, you know what? I guarantee you're going to get business. I guarantee all my clients are going to get business. I can't guarantee when or how much it's going to be or how consistently, but I know by our work together, you're going to make so much money as a result of it. It just, you need to be patient with it and give it time. And I even told this person, I said, listen, even if we were to do the work we're doing right now, and let's just say as we start, getting you out there and marketing yourself, you got 3 new clients this month. Awesome. Exciting. Very exciting. You got paid your best month ever. Let's say we're charging, whatever, $2,500 for your coaching batches. Wow, $7,500 in your first month of coaching. Fantastic. That's a great first month. But that doesn't mean the next month you're going to get 3 clients, or the month after that, and the month after that, so forth and so on. It could be another 2, 3, 4 months before you get another client, right? Or maybe you get another 2 or 3 clients the next month. But it also doesn't matter because it doesn't mean the next month you're going to get the same amount of clients, especially when you're starting the business. Now, when you've been doing it for a lot longer, 5, 10 years, etc., and I'm giving you some larger numbers, now you've got a larger audience, you have more clients that you're working with, you've been in front of a lot more people more consistently, you've got more people in your email community, you've had more conversations on a daily basis. So there's going to be people sending you a referral here and there, or the client renewing with you here and there, someone popping up out of your database saying, hey, let's talk type of thing. There's more of that. Obviously, the larger and the longer you've done it, the more consistently and there's no predictability. The more consistently those things will happen. Therefore, there's more consistency in your business. When you start off, you start at 0 and you get a client, and then you go back to 0. And then there's some amount of time that goes by, and then you get your client, and you get paid, and you go back to 0. And then you're 6 months down the road, and now you've always got to divide that by 12, right? You're charging $2,500 for your package. Let's just use easy math. $2,400 for your package, and that's the only thing you got so far. All right, I divide that by 12. That's $200 a month, right? So right now I'm averaging $200 a month for this calendar year. Right? If that's the way we want to look at it, right? And so if this were to pan out and I weren't going to earn any more money, I will have averaged $200 a month in my coaching business. And now, you get another client, and now I've earned $5,000. Okay, now you're been doing it for 3 months. So divide that by, you get the point, right? Now I'm averaging this much money per month, right? So you can kind of do the math that way to give you like a pace that you're on. But never, because there's no predictability with it. Like I said in the beginning, you're going from 0 to whatever you are and back to 0, and then at some point now you're averaging, $500 a month, So you go from 500 to, 3,000, and then back to 500, or back down to whatever, 600. And so over time, there's a little bit more base, if you will, a little bit more consistency in the people that are coming to you, like I said, by way of renewals, referrals, and just new people coming in from the existing work you've done in the past, relationships you've built, etc. Right now, you're starting off. We don't have any of that, right? You've got people, but no one's engaging with you yet. No one's responding back yet. You don't know how to identify opportunities yet. That's what I work with all my students on. We've got to learn how to identify opportunities, approach conversations from casual comments that people are making. That's where our clients come from. They're never just, showing up, waving their hand, going, "Oh, here's my credit card. I want to hire you." There's a process to get there, and oftentimes there's conversations to be had. So we don't understand that in the beginning, and so there's a really strong piece where you've got to understand and come to terms with this and set yourself up for success, especially financially, so that it's not putting a burden on you. It's not putting a burden on, the people in your world, partners, spouses, family, etc. I had one of my students earlier this week. We were spoken, and they were talking how their significant other. They're like, "Hey, so what's going on with your coaching business?" Now they've been only doing it 3 months right now, but they quit their job cold turkey and they're diving into this. And obviously what their spouse doesn't understand yet is that, well, it's not like you just open up your business and you've got customers. You open up a restaurant, you open up a store, hopefully you've got, people coming in, but it doesn't mean that you are profitable yet, because you have a lot of overhead in those situations. So even though you might have paying customers, well, you've got overhead from building costs to rent to, let's say, food, whatever the service or product is, to employees, to there's insurance, there's a whole bunch of stuff that you might need a certain level of business, so you might not even profitable yet. So you've got to understand this for yourself first. You've got to be able to communicate this to people in your world who are supporting you, even if it's just emotional support, and yes, or especially financial support. Like, they've got to have the right expectations. This is going to take time. There's no predictability to this, and if that's the case, the final thing that I'll say as I wrap this up is, and I'll tell my students this whenever applicable, is you might need to get a job. You might need to get a part-time job, something to sustain you as you go through with this. That doesn't mean that you failed. It doesn't mean that, oh, I didn't make this a go. It just means that you're being smart. It means you're being real. It means you're spending some time with some predictable income to take some of the pressure off your coaching business so you can give it the time to blossom. That's it. That's all it is. And so you just got to look at the best use of your time and where that goes, so that you're not in a stressful financial situation, because otherwise you're going to quit too early and you're not going to give the business the opportunity to grow. It's like a farmer who's planting crops, and it's just like, listen, you're planting crops, but you're not going to be able to sell anything for another 8 months, because it's going to take 8 months to grow. So and there's no guarantee that all those crops you're planted are going to produce in the volume with which that you've actually planted. So you need to make sure you prepare yourself for that. And even if you've been doing it for years, every time you do it, you could have a unusually dry summer. You could have an unusually hot summer. You can have an unusually insect-ridden summer, or all the other things that I don't know about with farming. The point is that there's no predictability within that. So you've got to be able to sustain yourself financially, so that you can weather what you need to weather. And if there's not much, if anything, you need to weather, great, things are abundant. That's a fantastic place to be. But just because they're abundant doesn't mean the next season will remain abundant. I've always developed the philosophy, learning the hard way in some cases, is even in abundant times, live lean in abundant times. It doesn't mean I, deprive myself of everything. It's just, especially when I'm earning money, or there's more than enough every month, I want to be very intentional about it and smart about it. And where am I putting this? How am I investing for myself for the future? Yes, I can do things. I could buy something, etc. But I want to make sure, like, what if this was a month that was really lean? What if this was a really stressful month and I don't have more than enough? What am I doing then? I want to make sure I'm preparing myself for that. And so there's a fine balance between that. But these are important things that you have got to understand and learn. And if you're going into it, understand that a little bit more from day one, you're going to make less errors and less mistakes. And we can have the philosophy that there's no mistakes. We can have the philosophy that mistakes and errors are the most valuable because we learn from them. Absolutely. Yet there's things that I know if we understand, we can avoid them altogether, or we can lower the lesson learned, lower the magnitude of the lesson, and that will allow us more traction sooner, which is so wanted and necessary with what we do. Hopefully, this has been helpful for you and you found value in some of the tidbits and lessons. No, this has come from, like I said, close to 30 years in entrepreneurship as a trainer in the fitness industry, as a coach, as a mentor coach, and heck, going back to my teenage years, landscaping, painting, doing stuff like that on my own. I've learned lessons that have carried me, forward from there as I've grown and done different businesses. If you're in a position where you find this helpful, but really need some help or require some assistance and guidance moving forward, and want to benefit from the lessons I've learned along the way as your mentor coach, go to my website, sellingcoaching.com, fill out the form at the bottom of the work with me page. I'll follow up. We can create a relaxed conversation and we can decide where to go from there. Until then, everyone, create a great week and go after everything with tenacity and